The Co-Ed Killer, Ed Kemper, a DeepSoul radio production. How well do you really know the person sitting next to you at the bar? The friend who laughs at your jokes? The neighbor who seems so normal? What darkness might lurk behind those friendly eyes? In the early 1970s, police in Santa Cruz, California were baffled by a series of gruesome murders. Young female college students were disappearing, only to be found dismembered, violated, and discarded like waste. As detectives worked tirelessly to catch the killer, they often unwound at a local tavern called the Jury Room. There, they would share drinks and stories with a gentle giant of a man they affectionately called Big Eddie. What they didn't know was that their drinking buddy, this intelligent, articulate man who listened to their frustrations about the very case they were working, was Edmund Emil Kemper III, the co-ed killer himself. The warning signs had been there all along. Born in Burbank in 1948, Kemper's childhood reads like a textbook of red flags. His mother, an alcoholic who divorced his father when Ed was young, allegedly subjected him to severe abuse, including locking him in the basement for months at a time. She feared what he might do to his sisters. Even as a child, Kemper's intelligence was matched only by his disturbing behavior. At 10 years old, he killed and decapitated the family cat. 3 years later, he killed another. These weren't just acts of childish cruelty, they were rehearsals. The patterns that develop in childhood don't disappear. They evolve, they wait, and sometimes they emerge in ways that transform a troubled boy into a monster. At 15, Kemper's darkness could no longer be contained. He shot and killed his grandmother, and when his grandfather returned home, Kemper killed him too, later claiming he couldn't bear to let the man discover what had happened to his wife. For these murders, Kemper was sent to Atascadero State Hospital for the criminally insane, but even there, Kemper was playing a game. He became a model patient, impressing staff with his intelligence and compliance. He was learning, watching, absorbing techniques from other inmates that he would later use on his victims. A psychiatrist would later comment on how Kemper's exceptional intelligence helped him secure his release, a freedom granted when he was just 21 years old. He was released into his mother's care, the very woman he despised most in the world. For 3 years, the pressure built. Then, on May 7, 1972, Kemper picked up 2 Fresno State students, Marianne Pesch and Anita Lucchesa. He promised to drive them to Stanford. Instead, he took them to a remote location, murdered them by strangulation and stabbing, then brought their bodies back to his apartment, where he dismembered them, violated their corpses, and photographed his handiwork. The co-ed killer was born. 4 months later, 15-year-old Aiko Ku made the fatal mistake of accepting a ride from Kemper. In a file-clear, heartbreaking twist, she actually managed to lock him out of his own car at one point. But after hours of psychological manipulation, he convinced her to let him back in. She was strangled, assaulted, and dismembered. The most chilling detail? The very next day, Kemper attended an appointment with a state psychiatrist who declared him no longer a danger to society. During this meeting, Aiko Ku's severed head was in the trunk of his car, just feet away. Knox. The killings continued with methodical precision. Cynthia Cindy Schall, Rosalind Thorpe, Alice Liu. Each young woman picked up, murdered, violated, and dismembered. Kemper buried Schall's severed head in his mother's garden, positioning it to face her bedroom window, a twisted manifestation of his hatred for the woman who raised him. But it was his mother who would become his penultimate victim. In April 1973, Kemper bludgeoned her to death with a claw hammer while she slept. What followed defies comprehension. He decapitated her, violated her remains, and later admitted to placing her larynx in the garbage disposal. Even when she was dead, he later said, she was still bitching at me. I couldn't get her to shut up. He then invited his mother's friend, Sally Hallett, to the house and killed her too. What happened next is perhaps the most bizarrely anticlimactic ending to a serial killer's reign of terror. There was no dramatic manhunt, no brilliant detective work that brought Kemper to justice. After murdering his mother and her friend, Kemper fled to Colorado. He waited for news reports about the killings, but when none came, he simply called the police from a payphone and confessed. The officers who took his call thought it was a joke. This couldn't be Big Eddie, their drinking buddy, the gentle giant who listened to their stories at the jury room. It took multiple calls and specific details that only the killer could know before they finally believed him. On April 24, 1973, at just 24 years old, Edmund Kemper was arrested and confessed to all 8 murders in excruciating detail. He was sentenced to multiple life terms. When asked what he thought his punishment should be, he chillingly replied, "Death by torture." In a strange twist of fate, Kemper would go on to become a valuable resource for the FBI's nascent behavioral science unit, helping them understand the mind of a serial killer. His interviews contributed significantly to the development of criminal profiling techniques used today. He even became the head of a prison program that produced audiobooks for the blind, narrating thousands of hours of content with his articulate, measured voice. The man who once dismembered young women now reads stories to the sight-impaired. Today, at over 70 years old, Edmund Kemper remains incarcerated at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. His case reminds us of the thin veneer of normalcy that can mask unfathomable evil, and how the friendly stranger at the bar might be harboring unimaginable secrets. Socks, what do you believe happened here? Could Kemper have been stopped earlier? Were the warning signs obvious in hindsight? Share your theory in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to DeepSoul Radio for more chilling cases like this.